Right, okay. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to this planning committee meeting, Thursday, the 3rd of August. I'm not going to bother with housekeeping. If you can just put your phones on silent. We all know about if there's a fire drill, we leg it out of that door. So we're being streamed live on YouTube, and I think we do. I'm Caleb Tomlinson. I'm the chair of the planning committee.
I am David Wheel, the council's head of legal and procure.
And Story Democratic Services Officer.
Catherine Smith, councillor for Broadfield.
Matthew Farnworth, councillor for Seven Stars.
Good evening for whoever's out there. Councillor Phil Smith from New Longton and Hutton East.
Good evening, David Shaw from Howick and Priory in Penwitham.
Good evening, I'm Councillor Will Adams and I represent Middlefirth in Penwitham.
Good evening, Councillor Peter Molyneux, Sounder in Walton Ward.
Good evening, Hayden Williams representing Leyland Central.
Councillor Damien Bretherton, Walton Liddell West.
Stringfellow, councillor for Lostock Hall. Good evening, Debbie Roberts, Development Management Team Leader.
Good evening, Catherine Thomas, Planning Manager. Good evening, Lizzie Hindle, Head of Planning and Enforcement.
All right, thanks for that, everybody. Right, we've an apology from Councillor Mrs Green and the substitute is Councillor Bretherton. Okay, do we have any declarations of interests for the meeting this evening? No. Okay. Well, I've read the minutes of the meeting held on the 3rd of July, which I have in front of me. I agree with them.
Seconded, Chair.
Thanks, Councillor Stringfellow. Can we go to the electronic votes on the meeting? If you weren't here, you will have to abstain.
Yeah, so the minutes are approved, Chair.
Okay, thanks for that, Dave. Right, we don't have any appeal decisions, so we'll move on to item number 6, land off West Paddock. Leyland, Debbie, if you could introduce this item, please.
Thank you, Chair. As Chair's already said, the application refers to the piece of land on West Paddock. I was going to say it's out of that window, but the blinds are shut. Roughly 2 hectares. To the east is the Civic Centre and the car park behind us. On the west is the surgery and pharmacy and Shrugswood Biological Heritage Site, which is a large woodland. In the north is woodland in St Mary's Church and Nursery Close, which is over this way. And to the south, we've got single unit and sheltered housing. The street scene's really varied in size. We've got single, 2-storey and 3-storey residential and commercial properties. Excuse me. The application proposes 75 apartments, age-restricted housing, so over 55s, and there are 67 one-beds and 8 two-beds, communal living space, a cafe bistro, small retail unit that's open to the public, and associated works. It's the same footprint, basic external layout, height and size as the one that was approved in 2022. That was for 72 units. The only difference is this is for 75. It's an internal reconfiguration and there's some minor external design changes to allow the changes. Primarily removal of step-on balconies and changing those to Juliet balconies. And a little bit of a redesign of this cafe bistro. We've also put solar panels on all of the roof spaces. Excuse me. All dwellings are affordable units, and the building is an L shape. I'll show you the footprint in a minute, but it'd be 116 metres by 64 at the widest points. Roof is a maximum of 15 metres, and to put that into context, the Civic Centre is around 18 metres, but it's on a slightly elevated site, so it's not quite as high as the Civic Centre. Departments will be over at 2 wings over 3 floors. Each has communal living space. First floor has a external residence terrace, and ground floor includes residence, pamper and guest suites. On the western side, this bit, it's a single and 2-storey cafe bistro, and there will be an external seating area on the west which faces Shrugswood and the surgery. Be constructed in a mix of red and buff brick, dark grey curtain walling, which is the glazed section on this bit, and roof in a combination of grey tiles and zinc with a standing seam finish. That's the finish we've got on the Civic Centre. As I've already said, there will be photovoltaic cells on the whole of the roof surface. Got 3 points of access. Primary access is on the western side next to the surgery. That brings us into parking and emergency ambulance bay section. The parking runs across the left and across the right sides, but it stops in the middle, so it's not a run through, it's 2 separate sections. This side takes you into the western parking area. Secondary parking, can you see this? I can't see this on my screen. Comes in where the breast screening unit is at the moment. And there is a small car park there, which will be secured, reserved parking, electric vehicle charging points and cycle store. And that's going to come through the fence at the top of the car park, top left of the car park, and that's just for fire tender access, so it's emergency access only. Total of 42 spaces. It's limited, but it is to adopted standards for age-related use, and Lancashire Highways are happy with that, subject to the conditions on your report. Approximately 11 spaces will be lost to the Civic Centre. And because of the control measures on West Paddock, so double the yellow lines all the way down and other measures that Highways have asked for, it's likely that the surgery on this side and the pharmacy and any new and existing residents might be dispersed onto the Civic Centre car park. Because of that, and to remove Lancashire County Council's objection on Highways grounds, we've had to agree to implement a car park management scheme, and that will be secured by condition. The details I don't have yet, but that'll be worked on by the team who are putting this together. Okay, proposed ground floor plan, just to give you an idea. The apartments are on these 2 wings, the cafe, retail area and some public space on the left-hand side. This external arrangement I'll go through in a sec. And this is the proposed first and second floor. They're identical. Other than the first floor has a outside seating area for residents. That's private space, not public. And the landscaping scheme, to the rear, there will be a landscaped sunken amphitheatre, for want of a better word. Allows for group activity. We've got landscape wildflower gardens, paths connecting public right of way, which is on this side, and gardens with defensible space. You can just see the blue line. That'll be a 1.8 metre fence to give the residents some private garden space at the back. All of this will remain open. At the front, new soft landscaping and another row of trees to run parallel with the one that's already there, soften the appearance and give a little bit of privacy to residents. We've also included 2 swales and rainwater gardens, which will help with sustainable drainage. Excuse me. Just a couple of photographs now of the site. This is the whole site, view from West Paddock. And the western boundary facing the surgery, so the site's here. The primary access will be here. That's the same view, but you can see the Civic Centre car park on this right-hand side, and the secondary access will be where the cursor is there. And again, the secondary access here, where that small car park is, so all this car, and just photographs of West Paddock for context. for context, you can see they're all heights, designs, shapes and styles. With the Civic Centre being a completely different design, we're comfortable that this apartment unit will fit well in the street scene. We've had 2 objections and they're both in the report, but excuse me, but the principle of development's established. So essentially you're considering the changes from the earlier scheme, which could still go ahead compared to this. As I say, 3 extra units, design changes, primarily balconies, solar panels on the roof, and a slight change in the design of the roof on the cafe and retail area. On the basis of the report before you, then we would recommend approval with conditions. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thanks for your detailed report, Debbie. Okay, we don't have any objectors wishing to speak against the application. Don't have any supporters. Don't have the ward members wishing to speak. If committee members wish to ask any technical questions, we do have the architect dialing in on Teams. But apart from that, I'm just going to bring it into committee. Councillor Smith.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I note with interest that County Council are still unhappy, even more unhappy than they were last time. On the sort of reference to South Ribble policy, and are we clear that South Ribble policy is still relevant in this case? And there's also a reference to with regard to that, to case law. So presumably this has been to High Court then, and there's a court case and a court number to reference the case law. If that is the case, I mean, obviously it is law rather than a planning issue. So is it actually case law? Has it been to court?
Yeah, 2 parts. County's comments haven't changed. Yeah. They objected last time, but subject to quite a number of conditions that you can see on there, most of which we've discharged on the original scheme. So we know that they're acceptable to highways. We've just carried them over. The reference case law, it's nationally accepted because of various appeal decisions, case decisions in the High Court, that the C2, which is, for want of a better term, residential institutions, is a much reduced parking standard than a C3, which is standard residential. This is classed as C2 because of the overage restriction. When we dealt with the Wellington Park and Cop Lane developments of similar schemes to this, we went to council and we asked their advice, and they agreed with it and confirmed that we can't ask for that higher level of parking. So whilst, yes, it's low, we're in a sustainable location. There are other options. There is a car park here, and it is policy compliant. And on that basis, County Highways have no objection. Thanks, Chair.
Yeah, Councillor Smith.
Oh, thank you, Chair. And obviously we note with interest the clinical commissioning group's position. I'll say no more about that one, but I think there was a point made last time, and I don't think it's in this report, that doctor's surgeries, there wouldn't be a place in a doctor's surgery. And I know I questioned it at the last one. Whilst it is a planning consideration, apparently, and I'm assuming we're going to be in the same position, that it will be up to the clinical commissioning group and the doctor's surgeries to actually accommodate anybody that requires any treatment. And I'm assuming that is the same position.
When we did the first application, CCG at the time didn't respond at all, and we did ask them several times. This time they come back with a request for monies. We've asked the question of all the councils in the area. We have a group, we've asked that question, and we're all of the same opinion that we have a community infrastructure levy. Things like doctor's surgeries and that side of thing are on what used to be called the 1, 2, 3 list of requirements that SIL pays for. On that basis, we can't ask for it again because it's double dipping. We're not allowed to double dip. Still money goes to that list, and if there is any left, there will be a surgery. But as far as I'm aware, most of the still money goes elsewhere. Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, one more, Councillor Smith,
more.
and then I'm going to
Can I-
give somebody else a go.
Okay, yes, fine. On that basis, can I propose approval, Chair? Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Smith, Councillor Adams.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I think it's really pleasing to see this come forward. And it's even more pleasing for me to see the designs as well, because it makes it a bit more real, I suppose, in that sense. I mean, I've spoken about why I think this would be a good policy decision in terms of for the council, for the community at full council. But in terms of seeing the application in front of us, it only reaffirms my belief that this is really something positive for our community, and it should be something that I think that we as a committee should support. So I'm very happy to second Councillor Smith's approval. Thank you.
Okay, thanks for that, Councillor Adams. Anyone else? Councillor Williams.
Those at the last meeting may recall me speaking against the approval of a retirement village in somewhere that was completely and utterly unsustainable. This is in a completely sustainable place. There's links to doctor surgeries, there's links to residential, there's links to leisure. Everything that anybody of a certain age would want in a property is here. So, and all the issues that could arise around parking and all things that have all been fleshed out multiple times now and seem to be acceptable. So I would be very happy to approve it.
Okay, thanks, Councillor Williams. By people of a certain age, I presume you were talking about me. Right, do I have any other proposals? No. Okay, so...
Sorry,
Oh, Councillor Mulliner.
thought I'd press my button. Yeah, just my concern was more to do with the parking. It would appear that that's been cleared up now. I think there was a concern about using the South Ribble car park as an overflow, which I was a bit concerned about, but it would appear that that's been sorted now. So I'm quite happy with that. Thank you.
Okay, thanks for that. So the Councillor Smith has proposed approval, seconded by Councillor Will Adams. That's the only proposal I've got. So can we go straight to the electronic vote, please?
Yes, Chair, that vote is unanimous in favour of granting planning permission for the proposal.
Okay, thanks for that. And item number 7 this evening, the Walled Garden, Worden Park, Leyland. There's 2 votes on this, is there?
Yes.
Dave will explain why there's 2 votes on it.
Yes, Chair, it's because technically there are 2 applications, one for planning permission and the other for listed building consent. And we always have taken 2 votes in such cases.
Okay, thanks for that. Debbie, if you'd like to go ahead with your presentation, thanks.
Thanks, Chair. Worden Park is a 60-hectare park. The majority of the buildings are Grade 2 listed, and the park itself is registered on England's Schedule of Historic Park and Gardens. The site itself is right to the park centre within the walled garden. The application is for reconstruction of the walled garden glass house. The walled garden itself dates around 1780, and the vine house, glass house and propagation house appear around the 1800s. Excuse me, sorry, about the 1800s. The glass house itself was replaced in 2008. It's not great. The base wasn't constructed properly and the top's now been removed. This is a photograph of it beforehand, but its condition was such that it had to go. The base walls remain, but they're not ideal, and below it are the remains of a boiler house, and I'll show you that in a second. The plan is to replace the wooden frame with painted aluminium even, rebuild the brick walls with a more appropriate brick, a softer brick, and to protect and restore the boiler house wall. This, as I say, this photograph is before the top section was removed. This is the base as it exists. You can see the outer wall, and this bottom photograph is the sub of the boiler house. we would be keeping that and protecting it as relevant. The vine and propagation house have already been restored in exactly the same style. So that's these two here. And this is the glass house on the right-hand side. They would look virtually the same. And the top, the proposed elevations, as I said, and this is the internal view of the vine house. So it's slightly smaller version, but exactly the same internally. No letters of representation. We've had a late consultation response from Growth Lancashire, our heritage consultant, and they say that this meets the statutory test to preserve, so they've no objection. So we would go with approval for planning permission and consent granted for listed building consent. Thanks, Chair.
Okay, thanks for that, Debbie. Councillor Adams.
Thank you, Chair.
Sorry, I don't have any objectors. I don't have anybody wanting to speak in favour, and I don't have any ward councillors or the applicant or the agent, because that's us. So, Councillor Adams.
Thank you, Chair. It's really nice to be at a planning meeting when you have two applications which are very easy to kind of get over the line, in my view. This is again another very positive application. It will add even more to Worden Park, which has seen significant improvement over the last few years. So it's a no-brainer from me. It's something we again should support, and I look forward to hopefully seeing the finished article. So I will vote for approval and also for consent, if that's the right terminology. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Councillor Adams. Councillor Williams.
Having been on Worden Park for a number of years and remember seeing the old glass house, it's nice to actually see it going to be back to its former glory yet again, and it can only enhance and improve the park. So I would second both the listed consent and the planning permission.
Okay, thanks, Councillor Williams. Does anyone else want to speak on this application? No other proposals, so it's down for approval. Proposed by Councillor Adams, seconded by Councillor Williams. Can we go to the electronic vote on the first part of this application?
Yeah, for the sake of clarity, this is for the planning permission. Yes, Chair, that's unanimous. So we just need the vote now on the listed building consent.
Okay, once again on the electronic system, this is for approval of the listed building.
And that's unanimous as well, Chair.
Okay, thanks very much, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us this evening. That's the end of this meeting, and I think you might find they've been softening us up for September's meeting, but I don't actually know yet. So, thanks very much for attending.